you can use whatever level of force that's like one step below what they're using. Well, what the fuck does that mean? Because
also,
if
if they're
somebody is
punching me,
coming
I'm supposed to like caress their head.
grab a coffee,
Take a breath.
you've just clocked into the ER edit.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Carly.
You are now clocked in.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Okay, something that has come up since episode 1 that I feel like we need to round back to.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Did I miss something? Did someone say something?
No, but in episode 1, we talked about people having sex in the hospital.
Oh,
and
the comments.
And how it's like this myth. And I'm like, that's not happening. They're not having sex in the hospital. The amount of people that are saying people are having sex at our hospital. Oh, people are having sex in the on-call room. I feel like we need to round back to this because number one, when I barely have time sometimes to go empty my bladder.
No.
So when are these horny people having time to go have sex?
Well, and a lot of it too was EVS. Did you see that?
No.
Where we have previously mentioned that EVS is literally the heart and soul.
The eyes
of
and
the
ears.
Hospital. They know everything. They're also sleeping with everybody, apparently. The comments blew me out of the water. You guys have some hoes working at your hospitals. It's not at ours, I don't think. Or
do we just not know?
Why aren't we?
And also the people that are scheduling this time in on their day, I'm like, I'm lucky if I eat and pee. That's it.
Also, on my lunch break, first of all, we have lunch with all of our friends before Carly ditched us. She was there too, but we all eat lunch together. If they are not there for some unknown reason and it's just me for lunch, I'm going to my car and I'm sleeping every time, or watching a show that is prime time to catch up on my trash TV.
Yes.
I'm not going about the cabin sleeping with anybody. Also, how disgusting. The hospitals are gross.
Disgusting.
The stuff
vile
that these hospitals see, what's on their floors, what's on their walls, what's circulating in the air, and you're getting naked and having sex with that stuff circulating around you?
Absolutely not. So I feel like we just needed to touch back to that.
Also, maybe we should do one where we read the comments on that at some point, because truly it kept me entertained for quite some time. You guys should go look at the comments on the post for episode 1. Holy shit.
Crazy. Okay, jumping right in, there has been a news story that has been circulating. Mm-hmm. It's been very recent and it's been very close to home.
A little too close.
A little too close to home. But it's something that I feel like we want to share with everybody because this goes back to violence in the workplace against nurses and healthcare staff. And this story is like chilling.
It's really, I actually read it to Nick and he, like, I could see his face obviously change, because I think when you read and see stories like that, it puts into perspective that it literally could be you at any second. And it's really, really scary.
Yes.
Those of you that aren't aware, the hospital, I'm just going to read the news story so that we're kind of all in the same loop together here. Essentially, a nurse at a Santa Rosa hospital in California was allegedly assaulted and strangled with a medical cord while working at the nurse's station. The attack was witnessed by several other people and a police report was taken. The report details that the attacked nurse was working at the computer when Jonathan Calderon, I'm just going to go ahead and say his name, a 30-year-old male, approached the victim from behind and proceeded to strangle him with a medical cord. As the assailant strangled the nurse, he told the victim to die, bitch. While the report did not detail exactly what kind of medical cord was used, it did note that the nurse who was attacked struggled to breathe for around 3 seconds while the cord was wrapped around his neck.
Oh my
There were 4 witnesses named in the police report, and they did attempt to intervene, and they were able to restrain the assailant to stop him from continuing the attack. Then, well, we'll get to that. This unfortunately happens way too often, and I don't know that it's reported every time, if we're being honest.
It's not. I know for a fact it's not, because I myself, and I'm sure as you have experienced to a level of degree violence in the workplace from patients.
Yes.
And there are times where I have not filed a police report.
Mm-hmm. Why?
One time specifically that I can think of, because they asked if I wanted to file a police report, But then there was going to be all of this follow up. There was something like I had to,
it became more like,
remember.
It became more tedious than the situation was, probably. Because I feel that. Like, I feel that deeply. The amount of paperwork you have to fill out.
To be honest, I think that was it. Also, that was it. I was going to have to press charges. Okay. Like, I didn't have an option to file a report and not go through and press charges. Right. And obviously, that kind of makes sense. But I was also in the middle of a 12-hour shift in the ER.
Right.
I was working.
Yep.
It had just happened. I was shocked.
Yep.
And they were trying to, like, the security was trying to come take my statement and ask if I want to do all this. Well, I still had a 4-patient load that I was doing work on. And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, it's fine. And I think, unfortunately, that happens a lot. If it had been like life or death or something, obviously, but it gets underreported. And a lot of the reason is because you don't have time. You don't have time in that moment to do that.
You don't have time. And I think that purposefully some hospitals make it nearly impossible for you to. Nobody comes to relieve you from your assignment. So essentially you're trying to figure out and fill out this report bundle that is massive while still taking care of 4 patients, or having an ICU assignment, or being a resuscitation nurse or the trauma nurse, and a trauma comes in. Like, this is all still happening around you. I will tell, I have a story, a very specific one. It was at the very first hospital I was working at, and their waiting room is very different than ours is now. It is one nurse sitting out there. There's no tech, and they are called the arrival nurse. They are the ones that essentially do the registration part of it, and like maybe a very small triage.
They're just laying eyes on the person.
Laying eyes, registering, putting their stuff in the system, making sure we're not dying. And then a triage nurse will call them back. But you are essentially the only person in that waiting room, right. Which I was working at a downtown hospital.
They didn't have security standing there with you?
There's security by the front entrance, but they're not necessarily visible. So they're behind a set of double doors.
That's an issue.
It's an issue. This was also before there was any kind of glass screening around anything. So like at the hospital we work at now, there's like a glass barrier like you would see at a bank. That we triage with now. There was none of that there.
Yeah.
And so you just know, and I know you know this, you get a Spidey sense that you're just like, something is really off about this dude. I don't like it. Like
almost immediately when they start talking to you, almost like, oh, this is making me very uncomfortable.
Like the hackles on the back of your, like even talking about it now, I'm getting goosebumps because it just takes me back.
And the thing is a lot of times they'll say, well, what happened? What did they do? And at that point, it sounds like he was a perceived threat.
To me,
but
absolutely.
you know that look they have in their eyes, the way that they're approaching you, like they're on a mission. Like, unfortunately, we're very reactive. It's like you have to wait for something bad to happen and then, okay, you can do something, you know? Yes, we have security, but they're also very cautious about going hands-on.
Well, and sometimes they're not allowed to.
Exactly. And so you are in a situation where nurses, healthcare staff, frontline staff, they get assaulted all the time. And it seems like, well, self-defense is not allowed. You'll probably lose your job depending on your level of self-defense. So you're in this really murky area, and it's very nerve-wracking in the emergency room.
Yes. I mean, how many times? There has to be more than 10 times that you have felt thoroughly uncomfortable in a situation where you're like, this could go really wrong here in like 13 seconds.
Yep.
Like what? And you have to think quick and be like, okay, there's got to be a way that I get out of this, which is primarily, so we do take classes that are supposed to be our self-defense classes, right? I'm sure every nurse has to cross this off of their yearly training. However, what they are actually teaching us is how to de-escalate a situation. And that is about it.
Verbal de-escalation. And here's the deal. Sometimes with some of these patients, you have to skip right over verbal de-escalation. And that's not going to work.
Well, and I mean, sometimes with these patients, you get no warning to verbally de-escalate. I mean, sometimes patients literally out of nowhere will just attack somebody, which is what sounded like what happened to this nurse, that there was not even a chance to verbally de-escalate that. There wasn't a chance to restrain them.
Or even a warning. It sounds like there were witnesses.
Yes.
And it sounds like this is something that probably happened really, really quickly, where even him approaching, was it a female nurse?
Male.
A male nurse approaching like the nurse's station. People probably didn't even click like what's happening until he had already
put the cord around
his neck, which is so scary. And also, yes, a lot of times mental health is involved.
Yes.
Not always.
Not always.
Not always. Sometimes it can be agitation. They're not getting the care they want, whatever the reasonings are.
Yeah.
But a lot of times mental health is involved.
I would say it's mental health primarily, and drug use is another very big one. But you are right. There are some, what we would consider very regular, you and me type of people
and
that come in.
And that's shocking to see when you see somebody who you would not expect that from. That one is scary. This psych component, I feel like the one we're talking about, where they walk in, you can almost you can feel it.
Yes,
you can feel it.
Yeah,
the way they look at you, it is something that is you can't describe, but you can feel it.
It's so scary. Like, it still scares me to this day, and I'm sure it was the same with you. Like, there are certain people that walk into the ER sometimes that literally make me, like, it makes my stomach churn a little bit just from the feeling that I get from them. But then I almost wonder, like, what is their story and why am I feeling like this? Like, what have they done before that I am like catching on to right now?
Yep. And I do think that's something about being a nurse longer, like the longer you've been a nurse, you do get more, I don't want to say comfortable, because I don't think you get comfortable with those situations. I think you get comfortable knowing how you are and aren't going to approach them. When I was a brand new nurse, I felt like it was my job. I was there to take care of them, no matter if they were in this mental health crisis or not. Like, that was my job. And I would probably go into situations very nervous more often than I should, where now, even in triage, if I'm sitting in triage and somebody walks in and I get that feeling and I'm like, I don't want to be alone with this person. I don't want to have a conversation without another male present. I will grab a doctor. I will grab a tech. I will grab a security guard, and I'll say, hey, I'm going to pull this person back. I want you to stand in between me and them. Or I want you to be there with me while I talk to them. And they may or may not do anything, but there's just situations now that, like, I won't put myself in.
I agree with that too, but mine is more in the back. And I kind of am the opposite. Yes, I am more aware and more like willing to approach certain situations than I did as a new grad, right? Because I've been there for so long. I've seen people pop off for so long that it's like, okay. But I will say there's a level of me that does make my own self uncomfortable, because I have seen so many people pop off now at this point that I kind of just poo-poo it. And I think that at one point that's going to get me in trouble, where it's like you've become so comfortable. Yeah, you become so comfortable because you hear all of this stuff all the time, right? Like, our ER is filled with yelling, and it is wild.
It is wild and out in there.
It is wild in there. And so you just look around and you're like, cool. Like, okay, like, this is what's going on. There will come a time, though, where I think just by doing it for so long, you kind of let your guard down just a little bit, because it feels like your house. This is my house. And I'm sure the nurse felt that way. Like, when you're in your own home, you don't expect anything like that to happen. And I can't imagine being sat at a nurse's station, which is like our own protective little corridor,
with your guard down. If you're sitting there charting, like, you don't have your, you don't have anything your
up. You're literally in it, charting, just thinking everything's fine. Maybe taking a little snack break. Well, we're not supposed to, but like, who knows? But you feel comfortable when you sit there. And then to be choked out by probably an EKG wire or something that we use every single day.
There's cords everywhere. I mean, that's just the way it is.
So the victim and witnesses all stated in the report that due to the strength and force used in the strangulation, they believe the suspect intended to kill the victim. Well, obviously he was saying die bitch. So I think the intent was there. The report did not clarify if the assailant was also a patient of the hospital. I don't think they can give that out, can they? Well, yeah, they should be able to, right? That's not a HIPAA violation. Is it?
I don't know, but the article that I read said the patient stayed for treatment before being released to custody. So I feel like that is saying that they're a patient.
I will say that the one thing that this says is that the patient did end up, or the assailant did end up getting booked for attempted murder, which
good
is very few and far between.
Yes.
Very few and far between.
I would argue that I think nursing staff is probably one of the most highly assaulted staff.
Absolutely.
Or careers.
Yeah.
I mean, police probably.
If police get assaulted, it's a felony. It's an automatic felony, as it should be.
Absolutely, 100%.
If a bank teller gets assaulted, it should be a felony.
Yes.
Any person that gets assaulted should be able to press charges for felony charges, depending on the assault.
Yes.
Like, nurses don't.
Here's the little like caveat. And I think that this is the weird thing again about being a nurse. Going back to like, it's your identity. People have this preconceived idea of what a nurse is. People are coming to either voluntarily or involuntarily seek treatment, even in a mental health crisis moment. That does not condone assault, abuse,
violence against another person.
And people think, well, you signed up for this job. Well, you work in the ER. Well, I don't even know why this is still a conversation that's being had.
I mean, it makes me so angry even when people say that. You signed up for this. I did not. I actually never signed up to get assaulted. I never signed up to be in a position where my life could be taken, because some have been, or face any type of great bodily harm, whether it be sexual misconduct, because we could tell you all kinds of stories about that, especially against women, especially with things that are said to us verbally in the hospital.
Oh, it's disgusting.
And it's meant to slide. But anywhere else, you come in and say the things that people say to you and I. Like, I've heard it. I've heard things said to both of us.
Oh, yeah.
It is unreal. If someone said that stuff to me on the street, I would absolutely come unhinged.
Or if you were in any other place of employment and heard
you'd be kicked
the way
out.
that people are speaking to employees.
Yes.
Any other service industry job, and I get it, we're healthcare, but there is a level of service
Absolutely
to it. But any other service industry job,
boom,
you're blacklisted.
You don't get to stay.
Press charges. So the thing that's crazy about this news story is that patient or non-patient assailant, what are they calling it?
Assailant.
That assailant is being charged with attempted murder.
Yes.
And you do not hear that often.
Never.
And I think that the nurse was okay. I'm sure there was minor injuries and a lot of like psychological trauma, but wrapping something around somebody's neck, what is your intention? Choking them out, that level of force should be attempted murder.
Yes.
And I honestly hope this sets the precedence for a lot of violence where they see like,
do you think it will?
I don't know. I'm glad to see that this is happening. I don't know what will come of this.
I just think it's one story and I'm not convinced. Do you remember, this was like a year ago, maybe a little less. There was an ICU nurse. I believe it was an ICU nurse, or maybe she was just in the ICU nurse. Older. She was an older lady that was pummeled.
Oh, was she the one that got stomped on?
Yes.
I think she was an ER nurse, wasn't she? And then she was in the ICU. ER nurse.
Yes. And she stayed in the ICU.
Yes.
She was trained.
He like stepped her on her head.
Yes.
Yes.
She had she was so ill that she had to get a trach at some point, which is...
I mean, you can never go back to work.
Never.
Like, that's traumatic.
But nothing changed after that.
That's true.
Like, here's another story of it. And so I ask Nick sometimes too, like, do you ever get, I just like blanket question him sometimes, just to like get a poll on where we're at.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm like, do you ever get nervous about what I do for work? And he'll like look at me and be like, are you kidding? Like every day you go, I get nervous. And now that I've asked him that question, I see it, because if I don't text him back for a certain amount of time, and I mean, it's like, if I don't text him back for 2 hours, I will look at my phone and it's like, babe.
Yeah.
Baby. Like all of these things. And I'm like, hey, I'm good. And he's like,
good?
Yeah. He's like, I get nervous like when you don't text me back that something's happened, because I literally just never know.
Yeah.
And how freaking scary is that to like send your wife to work and really not know if today's the day that something might happen?
Yeah. especially with violence. I mean, I feel that way having my husband be in
it's a little
fire.
bit of a different story.
Yesterday, he was on a fire and I have his location, so I could tell he wasn't at the fire station.
Yeah.
And similarly, like I'm usually like, okay, hey, I'll say something about the kids or whatever. If I don't get a response back and I see he's like out, I'm like, oh, he's probably on a call.
Fire. Yeah.
But then after a few hours, the location hasn't moved. I'm like, he's either on a fire or like something has happened. And this is where like the crazy part of your mind.
Zoom into the location to see like where we're
Sometimes
at?
I do, and then I'll Google like the address to be like, is this a structure?
What are we doing?
Is this a business? Is this a house?
A field? Where are we?
It was a fire, and he was like pumped because they love when they get fires, you know. But same thing, you know, you have this little level of like anxiety all the time inside of you.
Yeah. And he asked too, he's like, are you in triage today? Like, where are you at? Because he knows. Yeah. He knows that if I'm in triage, I am literally a sitting duck. And that's how it feels.
Yeah.
Okay, I found some statistics for workplace violence specific to nurses that I found were absolutely insane. So I'm going to read a few. This one says 8 in 10 nurses, 81.6% have experienced at least one type of workplace violence within the past year. 81.6%. That's
damn near everybody.
I mean, that is insane. That is insane.
That's crazy.
And you and I are both part of it.
Believable.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it goes down to any type of workplace violence, which I think people don't give enough credit, like we were just talking to verbal violence as well.
Sexual.
And it happens.
Yeah.
Nearly half of the nurses, 45.5%, reported an increase in workplace violence in their unit this year, which is crazy that it's just now going. So now it's going up every year. And then 67.8% of nurses have been verbally threatened, which I think that's actually low.
That's that to me, that seems low.
Same.
I feel like if you've been a nurse, like for any period of time, that should be 100%.
I agree. 58.7% have been physically threatened, and 52.3% have been physically assaulted.
How many percent?
53.7.
And again, I do feel like this is underreported. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if that number was even higher.
This says too that in a survey, it found that only 29.5% of nurses report that their employer has staff available at all times to respond to workplace violence. And a mere 17% of nurses report that their employer places additional staff to reduce the risk of violence.
So additional staff does what though?
Right.
Show of force? Or are they training these staff members what they can and cannot do, what they should and shouldn't do? And then also there's like this whole legal aspect.
Right.
Because I've been in trainings at different hospital systems every hospital system has their own version of like training or de-escalation, they call it. Mm-hmm. And there's always like a portion in there about if somebody comes at you or attacks you.
Right.
And pretty much across the board, they use like this really like convoluted verbiage where they're like, you can use whatever level of force that's like one step below what they're using. Well, what the fuck does that mean?
Because if they're punching me, I'm supposed to like caress their head.
If a grown ass man is coming at me,
I'm
them. Doing whatever I need to do to go home to my babies at night. So that's a very,
and this is what we teach people too. Like on the street, this is what I will teach my kids. And maybe it's the wrong thing to do. But if you feel threatened, your job is to get out. And however you feel it's necessary to do that, I am good with.
Absolutely.
You come home and you tell me that you felt threatened in a way and that you ended up having to lay hands on something, or somebody, if it was done in the appropriate way, obviously we don't condone laying hands on anybody in our home. But if you are threatened and feel like that is the only way that you can get out, you will never be in trouble.
Right.
And I feel like it should be the same for healthcare.
And I think depending, if you're a 5'2", 120-pound female or you're 6'5", 210-pound male, right, your perception of threat is going to look very, very different.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's just this really like gray area. And because you work for a healthcare system and they've got all these like legal things, it's like, yeah, we want you to be safe. We want you to be safe. But
only to a certain point.
Yeah.
This is one area of life. I'm a very gray person. I like the gray. I like seeing gray.
Not me.
I know. You are very black and white. I'll take a little gray. At times I like black and white too. The hospital systems are very black and white. What are very gray, excuse me. This is one area that the hospital should be very black and white.
I agree. And I think every situation is different. So I think maybe that is hard to be black and white, but I also think that it's left gray because you have to also remember stories like this, healthcare systems don't want these in headlines. They don't want their hospital named like this.
No, and as a matter of fact, they'll do everything they can to keep it out. This
yeah,
is why
they'll
you don't
spend
hear
a lot of money. They will
right.
spend a lot of money.
Right.
I've experienced that. I've been at healthcare systems where major things have happened and you never hear about it.
Sure don't.
And so that's scary. So going back to when I told you there was an incident that happened where I chose not to press charges.
Yes.
So let me just tell you the story really quick. So I was at work in the emergency room. I was taking care of my patients. I had a patient who was not a psych patient. Well, that's not why they were there.
Okay.
If they had a psych history, that was irrelevant to their admission or whatever. And I went multiple times to the room to check on them, and they had peed in a urinal.
Okay.
And they had filled this urinal up, like,
yeah, we were full to the top.
Full pee urinal. Mm-hmm. So I go in there, and in the doorway, there's like a curtain you can open and close. Yeah. So you can either see the doorway or not. And it was like halfway open. So I could see the patient when I like popped in the room, but it was kind of covered. I popped in. I was like, hey, just checking on you. Is there anything that you need? You know. And before I could even do anything, he threw that entire urinal at me. I didn't see it coming because he was kind of hidden behind the curtain. That full urinal hit me on my shoulder and sprayed up my whole neck.
Oh my God.
And down my whole body.
No, absolutely not. See, this is the self-restraint that I don't know that I'm qualified for.
So immediately I just was like almost in shock and kind of like the first thing I thought was like, does this guy have any like
problems,
illnesses that I need to be worried about, like getting in my eyes or anything?
It didn't
go in my mouth.
No, but I have your bodily fluids all over me right now.
Yeah, and your pee, like disgusting. So I shut the door. Luckily, security or somebody was right there. It had like seen that happen. And so they like jumped in. I think an ER tech like maybe tackled him. I'm not sure.
Angel.
I stepped back and I just walked to the phone.
Yep.
So the way that we do overhead pages at our hospital is we can pick up the phone and we like dial a code and you can do an overhead page. I was shaking. Shaking. No, and I picked up the phone and I sounded like a psychotic.
Well, I mean, it was probably borderline to the point where we were going to be psycho in that moment.
And I said, I forget the room number. Let's say it was room
22.
I said, code gray, room 22. Code gray, room 22. And I hung up.
As if you were a flight attendant.
And I hung up the phone and I was just like, and people were looking at me like, I think waiting for me to just lose my shit. To this day, there's a nurse that will still be like, dude, I thought you were going to go ape shit. Like the way that you calmly picked up the phone was so disturbing. So then I went down the hallway. I grabbed some surgical scrubs. I locked myself in the bathroom. I had a good cry.
Oh, absolutely. And we're not crying because we're sad. Let me just set the record straight. This is a cry because you're so fucking pissed. And the only thing you can do is shed a damn tear.
Yes.
But you can't let anybody see you're weak.
No, so I'm crying out like this fury of God coming out of my eyeballs.
Yeah, it's flames, essentially.
I'm also scrubbing the shit out of my eyeballs. And I come out and I'm like, okay, it's game time. Let's go. And I have 3 other patients to take care of. Luckily, somebody jumped in. They're like, go take a second. I'll watch your rooms. So I come back and I'm like trying to just like shake it off. And this is when I'm having like security be like, do you want to press charges? Like, and it's just like, I can't right now. I just need a second. I need a second
to not talk
because I
to
feel
anybody
violent.
About it. I'm about to rage. I'm about to rage. And a paper pressing charges right now isn't going to do it for me.
Right.
I'm going to be honest. So let me just go back to what I know how to do. And don't talk
compartmentalize. I'm going to go back to my job. And this is, I mean, we compartmentalize throughout our whole day. Like we could do a whole episode on this, but we do this all day long.
Yeah.
And this was just another example of where I just like couldn't deal with it. I had to shut it off for a second. Was I physically harmed? No. Did I catch a disease? No.
Still.
Hopefully.
We still don't know.
So far not. But in hindsight, I kind of wish I did press charges because these are the reasons this shit keeps happening.
Well, and it's so frustrating because what they'll do in those instances is put a sign on the door that says we do not accept physical violence or any violence in this workplace. And I'm like, who's reading that? Surely not the populations that are coming in at times. And this sign is bullshit because you do every day.
Or the ones that says no firearms or weapons are allowed on this campus. Oh, great. Everybody except for people with weapons will follow that. So thank you for that so much.
Also, they're collected all the time. I think in regards to the situation too, it really, really matters who you choose as your work brothers and work wives. Do you know what I mean?
Your work family.
Yes.
Oh, 100%. Who's going to have your back?
Who's going to have your back? Who legitimately can be on the complete other side of the department and somehow know, like Spidey sense something's going down outside room 22. I got to go.
Right.
And they are just there. And I feel like our little group that we had, or I still have because I'm there, but is solid for that. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you know that those people are going to back you up no matter what you need in any kind of situation. We get asked all the time, like, what's the number one thing that you should do as a new grad or things like that? You need to establish your people.
Yeah.
Every time. Because they are the ones that will have your back. And sometimes it's only them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes security doesn't even make it in time. Sometimes they are not going to back you up the way that you need to be backed up.
I have been in an ER where I have been having a situation go on, violent, and security is called, and the security guard that comes running up, their stature is smaller than myself.
I know.
And like, that's no shade on them.
No, but they
But
sit
I'm
and
like,
watch
what are you going to
sometimes.
do? What are you going to do to make me feel more protected?
I know.
You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes you just have to have your people that when they hear, oh, code gray this area, they know you're over there and they're going to come lickety split.
Yes. If I know that any of my people are in that area, I am calling them immediately. Like, say if I'm at MICN and there's a code gray in any part of the emergency room and I know one of our people are over there, I'm immediately on the Vocera like, hey, you good? Like, are we good over there? Or do we need to send extra people? What do we need to do? What do you need? Where's Big Nick?
Big Nick. Oh, I miss Big Nick.
I think for nurses and for people that work in healthcare, I think we get so affected when we hear these stories because it seems like there will never be enough stories to make it change. And I feel like for me personally, it feels so disheartening that you keep hearing these things, knowing it can be you walking into that tomorrow or the next day, but it never changes anything. And I think that that's why certain institutions try and silence them. But I think it's also why nurses try and make them as big as possible, which is why I'm really thankful for things like TikTok and for social media, because I do think that prior to that, you didn't hear about any of these because surely they're not going on the news. You're hearing about them through social media.
And I think that I agree with all of that. I also think that things like social media and TikTok and things where people can make their own stories, they can make things go viral that are not necessarily on mainstream news outlets, is really powerful because healthcare systems, albeit they do care about patients' well-being, they also care about like the bottom dollar.
Right.
So when their feet are to the fire and their name is being spread or these stories are coming out, it's about saving face. It's about, okay, what do we need to do to like remedy this situation, which is not how it should be. That should not be the driving force. But I think that as a nurse, you're right. We see these stories all the time. And I feel like it was just a year or two ago, it was just back to back to back, like terrible stories. Yes. And I don't know. I mean, you're seeing a lot of people come in a very vulnerable state.
Yes.
And especially with mental health, like they're off medications, they're having an acute psychosis, like there's all of these things. And I can understand, I can come from a place of understanding of why they're in the place that they're in. Yeah. But still, assault, abuse, violence, not acceptable.
Not in any, I give grace.
And there still needs to be accountability.
Yes. And I think grace is always given to people that are struggling in whatever capacity that may be. But there is a fine line. There is a fine line and you can cross it.
Just to be clear, we will treat whoever walks in those doors.
Absolutely. But
our safety has to come first because we can no longer take care of people when we are not safe.
No. And at the end of the day, I think that this is the misconception that the public has with healthcare is that we are looked at sometimes not as human beings. But at the end of the day, we are real people that have families to go home to. And that is our main goal. And our main priority is I am going home to my kids and to my husband.
Yes.
And I'm going to do that in any way I have to.
Preach. Preach it. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a topic that will probably go on as long as our careers.
I know.
And it's something that I would love to see like policy changes, but it's this ongoing issue. And
it will be, I think, like you said, probably forever, which is extremely unfortunate. But I think everybody keeps saying it'll take something detrimental to change it, but we've been there already.
We've been there. Yeah. We've been there so many times.
Now that we have scared the crap out of everybody when it comes to what actually goes on in the walls of the hospital, we are so excited because one of the main things we get asked about is what we would have known as new grads.
This is like a top requested topic to talk about. Like what's something you wish you knew?
Do we have some things to tell you?
So tune in next week's episode where we talk a lot more about things we wish we would have known as new grad nurses.
Bye, guys.
Bye.